what should be included in the next federal budget.
Well, I think there's a lot of things. The list is pretty long. But the budget has to respond to the reality of today. And the reality of today is this is a country under a lot of stress. And the government, and that includes the opposition, has to do a good job, has to, meet that stress head on and, dealing with that plan for the future. So what could be included? Lots of things. But probably lots of money, lots of spending.
I guess something to do with economic recovery, but making sure that economic recovery maybe goes straight to whether it's cities or municipalities and bypasses provincial governments, because clearly our provincial governments have not, at least in the prairie provinces, have not been able to manage that money appropriately.
I think we need more funding for our own vaccination programming. But certainly I think, especially here in Alberta, where our provincial government isn't supporting it, we need to ensure that public education and public health is funded well, so I'd like to see more federal support for that.
I guess definitely something for small businesses, I think needs to be included and looked at. I think they've kind of gotten overlooked to some extent.
Next federal budget, I think there should be a little spending restraint. Been going a little crazy. It's a good thing they've brought in CERB and all those other things, but we got to pull the reins back a little bit in what they're spending, I believe.
I think universal basic income. Oh, I can say more than one. Oh my gosh, universal basic income. The federal government's continued to do this, but or has done this, but a continued focus on affordable housing options for Canadians as well. I think those are really kind of the two things that come to mind.
I think a little bit more support for students, a little bit more support for millennials. We're coming up into society right now that we need to be on our own. It's very strange that a house that my parents could have bought when they were my age, I'm not able to afford at the moment right now, especially in a pandemic. So I think there needs to be a little bit more support, whether that is on education base, whether it is creating a little bit more internship programs for millennials or the younger generation coming out of university. Just, a little bit more support that way.
I also think this new federal budget needs to support our live music and arts industries. This pandemic has shown that those industries are so vulnerable. And especially for our venues, for example, they're businesses that there's no online pivot for them. There's no revenue option for someone who runs a live music venue in the pandemic. So we're going to lose a lot of our cultural spaces and our most valuable cultural assets if there isn't government support for those businesses.
I think more support for certain progressive policies, such as getting our country off its dependence on non-renewable resources and using that as a stepping stone to help with job creation, particularly for people who've been laid off coming out of the pandemic.
They need to focus back on public health care and not kind of do the private healthcare way that I think are going right now. But I definitely think education and then healthcare is really important. We know that now from all of the strain that we've had. So I think any cuts to that is just ridiculous. And then education obviously is the most important thing in society. So that too.
But workers that, such as labor or, some other works, it has to help them because they will be in the risk. They will be very much in the risk, and they are in a close contact with outside. And sometimes they can't wear the mask all the time, or having sanitizers or things with them. That will help them a lot. This is, I think, it has to do.
I think we should focus more on helping a lot of small business owners who have had their businesses fall over and fail during the pandemic, those who might be standing at the edge, just, about to fall over. We should prioritize helping them because, big box stores, they'll recover. Our friends and families, they won't.
Should be spending on homeless people, getting people out of the parks, Beacon Hill Park especially.
I would say with just everything that's going on with COVID is definitely with wage subsidies and stuff like that, helping certain places like restaurants that are having to close down due to things, businesses that are having to close down with things, and making sure that the people that don't really have a choice are losing their career to it, kind of helping them, at least support them to get their feet off the ground so they can maybe start a new career path or move on that way.
Nothing, as long as we get a balanced budget. I have no wishes.
Initiatives for young families, affordable kind of cost of living. And I'm a big environmentalist, so I think some more investment, or as much investment as we can into renewable energy and, climate change stuff.
Federal budget, more money towards First Nation institutions and reserves.
A definite way to get rid of the deficit, period. It's a big problem, not only for Canada, but for the rest of the world. We got to get ourselves out of the hole without hyperinflation.
More money for agriculture and more money for this COVID problem.